Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Coco Bandicoot here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series while we're still playing through Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch. So last time, if I recall correctly, is that we did somehow once again tackle through 3 stages as far as I'm aware, and those would appear to be by the forms of Iris Arc, in addition to the forms of the Mountains of Maya, and of course Maze of Memories. So very lengthy for those stages though, I will admit it though right away, but it wasn't whenever we approach onto the forms of towards the end game though, that it gets a lot more lengthy. So because of that though, yeah, we did tackle for those stages no problem, despite the fact that I've almost got a bit confused during the forms within Maze of Memories, specifically on the last section. But apart from those side of things though, like I said before, we did those stages no problem. So today, for this video, is about the fact that we're about to take on, presumably speaking though, the next boss in the game, and as it turns out, we're about to be getting ourselves the next element, despite the fact that, well, technically speaking though, this is going to be the 4th element that we will come across into, while despite the fact that the 3rd element has already been obtained thanks to the forms of Lorana, which as a result she managed to go away with it. So technically speaking though, this is our 3rd element we can probably obtain, so we can pretty much guarantee we can able to actually get the element of Indecision. So because of this, yeah, because of that though, we're about to be hit on to Indecision Pass. So basically something tells me we must do the test, meaning about the fact that we must take on the next boss before we're able to receive the next element of any sort. So yeah, everything else checks out there, and as a result, we can probably head back into the forms within, you know what I'm saying, with that familiar islands, since in journey forms within the beginning portion of the game. So I only know for the fact that it's been about 5 days ago since I actually have last played this game for sure, but I'll explain more of that in a minute. So because of this though, yeah, a few things I want to explain for this point today is about the fact that, well, today's date of course there is the 26th today, in some cases in March, in 2024. So, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that I believe we've only got about 6 more days to go until we approach onto April, which as a result, man, time flies, you know? Especially like we've already established that so many times already. Every time whenever we watch certain movies, play some games every once in a while, and even just trying to able to deal with the forms of a lot of recording sessions to catch up on, basically though, the time just somehow managed to able to win fly by, which as a result you probably get the idea of how that particular time goes. So anyway, there are a few things I want to explain any of those things worth noting for, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, well, first of all, about the fact no matter what though, recently Maxi, he already started things off with the entire DLC content for Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 already. So relatively speaking though, is about the fact that, well, this is going to be a lot more interesting, especially noticeable while he's just able to actually look back on it though. Well, as a result, no matter what though, is about the fact that currently he already managed able to complete Team Attack Amigo DLC recently. So, well, actually, kind of thinking about it, I'll explain more down in a minute, because as you can tell, in this particular boss right here, unfortunately though, we can't utilize with the forms of the ring wind bullets for right now, clearly because no matter what though, after the events of that particular ending portion of Maze of Memories, is that Lolo is pretty much basically just, well, felt a little bit too sad and what have you. So as a result, all you have to do in this part right here is to able to go through dashing rings, or just try to go through those dash rings, so just in case you're able to get enough speed, so that way you can able to deal the amount of damage to this particular boss. So every once in a while though, you have to dodge a lot of those hazards right here, especially noticeable with those spike balls, icicles, you name it. So yeah, relatively a simple fight though, although relatively speaking about the fact that much like most bosses in this game, this boss is going to be divided into 2 phases. So because of this though, the first phase though is about the fact that we have to dash straight into that particular eggshell thing right there. So just to ensure about the fact that you can able to deal the amount of damage to him. And then as soon as we get to phase 2 though, as soon as we're able to realize about the fact that that particular cutscene is about to show up in Drain at some point right now. So this means no matter what though is about the fact that the actual eggshell just got hatched. So as a result, we can now able to take him on while realizing about the fact that, well, obviously Poker needs to have a word with Lolo for a bit. So just to ensure we definitely need some bit of backup to able to try to deal with that particular boss at hand. So anyways though, and as I said before, it's been about 5 days ago since I actually have last played this game for sure. And I mean, relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that we've actually come towards the point, about the fact that we're now on to the halfway point in terms of the forms of Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, in the likes of the forms of this particular remastered version of the game, from the likes of the forms of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series. And speaking of which, I believe we're now on the 3rd quarter right now. In terms of the forms of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series compilation as far as this is concerned, mind you about the fact that we were expecting to try to able to go after all those gems or jewels and whatever, but honestly though, it just feels like a bit of an ultimate challenge for my liking, which, although I will admit though right away, I will try my best if I was trying to able to accomplish that on the Switch version most likely, assuming of course I do need to purchase the forms of the entire DLC costumes, so that way it will allow me to able to retry as many times as I want, assuming of course if I accidentally missed out on journey forms within those specific jewels or crystals to be more specifically. I mean, that might be precise the point, at least for I've noticing that already. So anyways though, something's worth noting for as well is about the fact that obviously Starlight Glimmer, she's almost finishing up Mario vs. Donkey Kong Switch remake, so as a result, no matter what though, she's obviously still going to be able to experiencing the time attack mode for that particular remake in mind. So after we're done with that game though, we can't really tell for sure of what's going to be up next in terms of the forms of some upcoming Let's Plays in the future. But I'm sure enough though, it's going to be a super top secret. So because of that though, because obviously I'm probably not going to be able to mention any spoilers for the time being. So as a result, yeah, you get the idea for that point. So yeah, here we go, on to the second phase of the fight, where we got to do the exact same thing, except now, about the fact that in order to be able to deal the amount of damage to this boss right here, is that we need to grab those enemies right here as projectiles and throw right back into its weak spots, right into its back. So I think we have to hit him for about 5 times or something like that. So I mean, there might be a couple of times though about the fact that sometimes that the actual jumps needs to be so accurate though, especially noticeable with that specific movements as well. Although there might be a couple of times though, I will admit it though right away, I have no idea why, in Journey of Forms within the first phase of a fight, that basically though, I just went through the forms of that particular dash ring, despite the fact that I did manage to barely touch it, but as a result, for whatever reason, the game tells me I went through it. So because of that, that doesn't make that much sense to me though, but I will say is about the fact that, oh jeez, I just realized about something, is about the fact that, well, until eventually later on though, is about the fact that, this is where, about the fact that not only, actually, I'll explain more details about that if we get onto at some point on Thursday, or perhaps even maybe during the forms of it next week, which appears to be April. So, no matter what though, is about the fact that no matter what though, I'm pretty sure no matter what though, is about the fact that it's going to be possible that we can able to actually finish up the entire Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series during around that time when spring has actually just began. So no matter what though, is about the fact that, now from what I've heard anyway, is about the fact that the time itself is going forward and during at some point by the end of March. So because of that though, you probably get the idea of how this is going to represent it for. So either way, the next boss has been done. So as a result, we can just ram straight through him, despite the fact that, well, the explosion effects did somehow showed up for about a few seconds ago. So no matter what though, we've passed the test, so this means we can able to receive the next element. So yeah, no matter what though, yeah, I did that okay enough, despite the fact I accidentally died. Well, luckily though, like you've already established that already, that basically though, every time when you do die on the second phase of the fight, obviously about the fact that the checkpoint system is always super duper useful, especially noticeable because no matter what though, yeah, you don't have to worry about just trying to go all the way back to the beginning of that phase of a fight or something like that, or the entire boss fight rather, so... Anyway, let's talk about the forms of some interesting news I would like to point out, is that first of all, yeah, no matter what though, is about the fact that one of those films in particular, called The Muppets Most Wanted, that film has officially became a decade old, since in 2014. So, yeah, time flies, you know? So yeah, happy 10th anniversary of The Muppets Most Wanted, film, which as a result, despite the fact I still have not seen a film just yet though, that's just mainly because back in Journey Films in 2014, that I was pretty much excited able to check out all the other films in mind, ranging from Rio 2 and all that stuff, which, speaking of Rio 2 though, is about the fact that I'll explain more about it if we get on to the finale portion of Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, from the likes of the films of the Phantasy Reverie series version as a matter of fact. So, either way, let's head back into this particular island, and this is going to be the final time we can able to experience this place, because no matter what though, something fishy is going on. So because of that though, yeah, we'll basically decide able to hand over those 3 elements to Baguji, I think is what it says anyway. So anyway, there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well. Happy 62nd birthday to the one and only Matthew Broderick, who also did the voice of the forms of Simba from The Lion King, and on top of that, Barry from the Bee movie, from what I've heard anyway, alongside with the forms of, oh gosh, don't even get me started on the forms of well, let's just say enjoying the forms of the Inspector Gadget, which, by the way, enjoyed around that time about the fact that since we are now in 2024 right now, this means it's gonna be the 25th anniversary of the Inspector Gadget's live-action movie, and I was like, oh, good grief, why? Why does that film exist anyway, with all its horrible editing, and on top of that, embarrassing acting, and, of course, some worst fourth wall jokes you ever heard of. And not only that though, it just felt very uncomfortable whenever we did somehow manage able to figure this out. So yeah, as it turns out, it's about the fact that Lurana was actually on the forms of Baggy J's disguise. So no matter what though, she's planning to do something a little bit more bit mischief, or specifically a little bit more. It's pretty tricky to explain because, like I said before, it's been about 5 days since I've played this game for sure. I mean, obviously no matter what though, it's about the fact that what I've noticed, I actually had a lot of fun playing Princess Peach Showtime recently for my spare own time. Obviously, we're probably not going to get into any spoilers for the time being, because obviously no matter what though, it's been like, well, let's just say 4 days ago since when that game first came out, since in the 22nd of March, and as a result, no matter what though, I'm having a really good time with it so far, even though despite the fact that in Journey Evolves on handheld mode, for whatever reason, the quality itself looks a bit pixelated, whilst compared to the on TV mode, it looks just fine. And yes, relatively speaking of, what I've noticed is that much like the forms of how it does it on, let's just say Yoshi's Crafted World for the Nintendo Switch, obviously though, it only contains 1 file, so no matter what though, looks like this is going to be a massive farewell to the forms of good feel developer type of games to able to feature save files. Well, usually relatively speaking though, I do remember back then about the fact that when Warrior Land, the Shake Dimension, does have file save system, which as it turns out that game does have 4 save slots, and this could be also applied with Super Paper Mario, despite the fact that Super Paper Mario is being developed by Intelligent Systems, and as a result, I have no idea why I somehow compared that. And unlike the forms of how it does it on, let's just say Kirby's Epic Yarn / Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn for the 3DS. Basically though, it does have 3 save slots, whilst usually for the likes of Yoshi's Woolly World, including Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, both of those versions of the game also has 3 save slots, whilst in Journey informs within not only Yoshi's Crafted World, and especially noticeable with recently with Princess Peach Showtime, every once in a while though, both of those games actually now has 1 save file. So as a result, yeah, we'll try to figure something out in the future. And whoa, easy there, Klonoa, easy. In fact, no matter what though, I'm almost assuming if I was going to be playing through Shadow the Hedgehog again, well, as it turns out, we're probably not going to play that game for the time right now, just because we've already tackled for that game since technically in 2018 all the way up to 2019, even though mind you about the fact that we have to be able to get a new copy back then, especially noticeable that Sonic did somehow tell me something, that back in Journey films within 2018 sometime, that obviously no matter what though, the actual game disc actually struggles for a bit when it comes to reading specific, you know what I'm saying with all that particular disc reading stuff. So no matter what though, yeah, you probably get the idea about the forms of how the fact that sometimes GameCube discs doesn't seem to last very long, especially noticeable if you're trying to play that specific game for a long period of time, and no matter what though, that's as far as we can able to say about that, I guess. So, but as you can tell about the fact that we're going back onto that similar level as the forms of how it does in sense to be very beginning, except as you can tell, the main gimmick of this stage, as you can see, is about the fact that there are tons of glowing statues, which as a result, basically, if you go near to those blue statues, that actually regenerates your, let's just say your air meter, because as far as I'm aware, this particular portion of the level is covered in like poisonous clouds, or just smokes in general or something. Well, like I said before, it's been a very long while since I actually have last played this, but hopefully exponentially though, we are definitely going to be able to catch up in regards to the forms of some more uploading schedules for the likes of the entire compilation of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series. Now, straight to the point though, I don't think it's possible we can able to actually fight against with the next boss fight anytime soon, until specifically later on, because something tells me is about the fact that, as you can tell, we must make our way back to the forms of, well, the exact, well, I don't know how you exactly say this for surely though, although, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that I've noticed something about this as well, about the fact that we've actually recently got the actual final results Journey forms within the recent Splatfest, which as a result, specifically, number 14, Splatfest. So, as a result, the winner for that particular catalog, when it comes to the forms of the Splatfest number 14 results, which appears to be based off from instruments after all, which is from the likes of the forms of drums, guitar, and keyboard. And the winner for that particular team, for that matter, is Team Keyboard, which as a result, from the actual final results, as far as the actual result tallies are concerned, basically though, when it comes to sneak peek, they did somehow almost barely got close in regards to the forms of the majority of the forms of the percentage of about the fact that with the actual sneak peek results. So for instance, Team Drums was 33.93%, Team Guitar was obviously 32.30%, and Team Keyboard was actually 33.77%. And as far as the final results are concerned, as it turns out, Team Drums receives 180 points, and Team Guitar receives 190 points. And no matter what though, this is what the actual results gets pretty insane. Team Keyboard receives a grand total of 500 points, so that is quite unexpected, especially noticeable despite the fact I haven't exactly interacted that much when it comes to the forms of Splatfest in mind, because no matter what though, I'm not exactly sure you might get rewards if your selected team is to somehow win. Well, mind you, no matter what though, I haven't exactly touched upon Splatoon 3 for quite some time at this rate, just because no matter what though, I'm still busy playing through Princess Peach Showtime like I said before. And no matter what though, is about the fact I just realized about the fact that when it comes to Princess Peach Showtime, basically to me though, that game is basically a much more better version of Balan Wonderworld, because thankfully though, Princess Peach Showtime does not receive any glitches, whilst unlike in Balan Wonderworld, did receive a whole bunch of glitches as well as some unfinished, unpolished mess. And no matter what though, I just classify for saying that I think Princess Peach Showtime is a much better game than the forms of how it does it for Balan Wonderworld, because I'll say this right now, Balan Wonderworld is the most infamous game out of the lot when it comes to likely releasing some certain games during the forms within 2021, so yeah, no matter what though, it's a good thing I'm probably not gonna get that game after all, because obviously Princess Peach Showtime is a much more of a superior experience. Plus, not to mention though, that Princess Peach Showtime did receive a lot better than the forms of how it does it for Balan Wonderworld, and especially noticeable that Nintendo once again basically just, well, dominates the entire score victory once again. So yeah, you probably get the idea for that particular logic worth noting for. So of course we still need to able to try to toss that specific enemy to that little big monstrosity thing right there in the background. So yeah, we have to still try to get used to that. So anyways though, yeah, that's basically all there is to it though. Oh yeah, speaking of something related to Princess Peach Showtime, as far as I just realized, recently I've decided able to go back into Super Mario Run recently. The reason being for this is because recently that Princess Peach Showtime event has already been happened, which as a result, despite the fact that unfortunately though, I somehow did not complete any of those specific tasks based off from Super Mario Bros. Wonder events, but that's just mainly because no matter what though, I just found it a little bit tedious to able to grind as many of those golden Goombas as I can when it comes to able to receiving that specific reward, which as it turns out is just the forms of the Goomba golden statue as far as I'm aware. Well, mind you, no matter what though, it's about the fact I just basically just give up experiencing the Super Mario Bros. Wonder event when it comes to Super Mario Run. Whilst thankfully for Princess Peach Showtime does not rely on the forms of going on to Toad Rally mode, so instead you're able to actually go and do some mission objectives, ranging from defeat such an amount of enemies and collect as many of those coins, or just potentially speaking of trying to reach at a certain amount of time, and anything else checks out there. So no matter what though, I think there was a grand total of 9 missions to complete for Princess Peach Showtime events for Super Mario Run. Some of them are actually kind of easy, while some of them are actually brutally difficult. Like, I'll say this right now, the hardest one out of the bunch though, it has to be by the forms of taking place in Journey Forms within World 6-1. The reason being for this is because the mission applies is that we need to defeat 20 or more spikes in order able to success that particular mission. And as far as I'm aware, the difficulty choice I went into, which appears to be by the forms of those black coins challenge. So because of that though, because the reason why I choose that difficulty in mind is because it does have a lot of spike enemies involved. So because of that though, if I dare try to able to go onto pink coins challenge mode alongside with the forms of the purple coins variation here and there, it might contain some lesser amount of spikes though, which as a result, luckily I did somehow manage to choose Luigi on that specific run though, mainly because of his high jump, and on top of all that stuff though, I was originally trying to able to select Yoshi, but it does have some bit of disadvantages when it comes to able to actually just trying to able to tackle for that mission. So yeah, that's as far as I can try to able to explain any of that specific parts. So anyway, so it looks like we've almost nearly at the end of this level right now. So it's just about the fact that no matter what though, we do need able to actually bring those enemies as propellers, so that way we can able to actually just well, fly upwards. So anywho though, yeah, in regards of anything else though, is about the fact that once you complete one of those missions in that specific event, basically though, you can able to claim yourselves the actual Sparkle Gem, which obviously, like I said before, there are 9 in total, with 9 missions respectively. So no matter what though, I believe you do get about 3 rewards, which there are basically certain statues based off from the game's release of Princess Peach Showtime, ranging from Partissima Peach, and also Sword Fighter Peach, and finally Peach and Stella. So yeah, I guess that pretty much summed up as the forms of those most standard, you know, in-game items as far as we can able to achieve from. In fact, it kind of feels a bit too similar to the forms of those specific spirits from the likes of in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Oh, there's something I want to classify about this as well. It's about the fact that, yes, like what Maxi has already mentioned about this before, this is more of the point about the fact that when it comes to experiencing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I will admit it though right away, that since no matter what though, we've already did somehow manage to fully 100% everything in regards to the forms of, well, you know what I'm saying when it comes to the forms of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So this means, no matter what though, we have decided able to take a break for playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, not only because we did somehow manage able to fully 100% everything, in terms of all these spirits we somehow obtained, and in addition to that though, is about the fact that we've encountered the actual playtime we had. We played a game since 120 hours, so that seems an awfully long time though, but regardless of everything else though, still we had a blast playing for that game, especially noticeable that maybe at some point I will come back into that game eventually, if I decided able to go after some more amiibos for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate lineup, ranging from, let's just say Solid Snake, or Cloud, or Sephiroth, if eventually those prizes will drop price, or potentially speaking of, if they decided able to restock them. Well, it's sort of difficult to tell at this point, because I know for a fact that I'm miles able to take a break on ordering certain amiibos for now, because as far as I'm aware, my next thing I need to go after is, of course, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door on Switch Remake. Speaking of which though, is about the fact that much like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, specifically, the European version of the My Nintendo Store, my goodness, the amount of pre-orders in My Nintendo Store in the UK version of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door on Switch, the amount of pre-order bonuses is really impressive, like one in particular. Although, much like the forms of how it does it on Game Shop, for what I've heard anyway, they still managed to give you some key rings, but this time it appears to be giving us the ability to able to have not only one, but 3 different kinds of key rings, ranging from Goombella, Paper Mario himself, and of course Mini Yoshi, or Yoshi to be more specifically. But here's the coolest part though, is that one of those particular pre-order items you do get, that's what appears to be the coolest part, and that's what appears to be a buildable battle stage, which obviously replicates the, well, the entire stage performance in journey forms of the actual battle system, which I will say, that was the coolest part ever. Especially, I was originally able to get that particular edition, but well, again, we shall see what happens during that specific time, especially noticeable because by that time though, that March is almost over. So because of that though, before we move on to, well, the next month, which appears to be, like I said before, April. So, speaking of April though, is about the fact that we've already noticed right from the start though, is that I don't think there's gonna be that much content for April, aside from Freedom Planet 2, which I'm still expecting to try to get that game on the Nintendo Switch version, most likely, so I can play that game on the go, much like the first game. So, yep, and as it looks like, no matter what though, the next bell has been revealed somewhere back in Sea of Tears, thanks to the forms of Lorana that somehow found it, so we must make our way back to the forms of the Sea of Tears. But no matter what though, something tells me is that we must able to actually just realize we might go into that similar level as the forms of how it does it for Sea of Tears, except with the forms of a different gimmick that we have to rely on. So, anyway, there's also another thing I want to point out as well, that yes, remember what Maxi has already mentioned about the fact no matter what though, we are almost, technically speaking though, for those if you ever experienced Super Mario Maker for the Wii U, basically though, there's almost a full completion when it comes to fully completing every single already made stages from a lot of people around the world. So, as it turns out recently, I found out that recently, all of the Super Mario Maker Wii U community courses have now been completed. So because of this though, meaning it's all cleared. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that there's this level called The Last Dance. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that I think that particular level's been made by one of those players who actually modded the actual Wii U or something. And as it turns out, ever since on the 15th of March, that particular stage has fully cleared. So no matter what though, yeah, everything else when it comes to Super Mario Maker, when it comes to online functionality, including with the forms of the community levels, basically though, everything's cleared now. Oh, you kidding me? I was off by 1 crystal left on that particular level. Oh jeez, I didn't pay attention to the actual the background that much. Well, mind you, because no matter what though, I was so distracted to try and able to actually rescue all of those doll pieces. Oh well, we'll just have to skip that for now. So anyways, let's make our way back to the Sea of Tears, except now we're going into Dark Sea of Terrors, or Tears rather, because obviously the entire place is now dark this time. So no matter what though, we have to rely on the forms of those little creatures to able to bring certain light to us. So yeah, that's essentially what we're going to be focusing on. So yeah, because as it turns out, no matter what though, that there's this person called, let's just say, Yarmanda, SMM2, that he did somehow manage to able to legitimately try to able to clear that stage, and that is predictably the final legitimate course that he did somehow complete it. So therefore, The Last Dance is considered to be the final stage that was previously uncleared. But as it turns out recently, that stage has now been completed. So, perfect timing too, especially noticeable, like what Maxi has already mentioned about this before, that we've only just got about, well, let's just say, 2 weeks now, until the Wii U and the 3DS online functionality is going to be shutting down. So, again, a perfect timing to able to complete that particular true final level though. Especially no matter what though, some Nintendo fans have already pointed that out. So, even though it's a shame about the fact that I still haven't exactly fully unlocked Super Expert Mode in 100 Mario Challenge. I mean, let's face it though, I'm honestly going to be able to skip that. Or I might continuously try, but I'll explain more about that if I do manage to complete it. Or if not, then I'll just simply go ahead and say, screw it, because obviously, no matter what though, Super Mario Maker 2 has already managed to give me the Super Expert Mode, in addition with the forms of the 3DS version as well, with the forms of Super Mario Maker 1. So, yeah, that's what I can really say about that, I guess. So, anyway, there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well. Speaking of Splatoon 3 though, is that recently Splatoon 3 is now onto its new version update, which this time would appears to be by the forms of version 7.1.0. So, I'm not exactly sure what adjustments they somehow brought things else into. Well, mind you, no matter what though, like I said before, I haven't exactly gone back into Splatoon 3 for some time ago, since in journey forms of sometime in 2022, although recently, no matter what though, all of the entire DLC is basically done. Well, in regards to the forms of, paid DLC, in regards to the forms of Inkopolis, and especially noticeable with the forms of the side order as well. So, yeah, I guess no matter what though, oh jeez, we must able to get away from those little weird blue stuff, which as a result, if you manage to able to let those weird blue stuff decide to able to come straight towards you, not only you lose your light, but it's also eventually at some point, they will try to hurt you. So, yeah, this particular level concept does remind me of the forms of, well, let's just say, fumbling in the dark level from the likes of in Crash Bandicoot, where basically if you do manage to able to come across into Aku Aku, basically though it actually gives you some light. However, if you get hit, you lose your light. So, as a result, yeah, this entire stage reminds me of this stage though, because obviously, except no matter what though, we do have a health system, luckily, And in addition to that, though, is about the fact that, yeah, as you can tell, we've lost some bit of light. So, and yep, things get a lot more insane around here, because obviously if you get hit by these weird blue stuff, then obviously you lose your bit of health. So, be very careful, mind you. So, there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well. I've noticed something, is that it's been 2 years ago since Kirby and the Forgotten Land did somehow came out on the Nintendo Switch, and while looking back in that game, even to this day, I still find this to be one of the best looking Kirby games I've ever looked at, or potentially speaking of, one of the best Kirby games I've ever played. Especially not only this is the first ever 3D Kirby game, but it's also a lot more enjoyable as well. Even though despite the fact that trying to go for 100% completion might be felt a bit cumbersome, mainly trying to tackle through certain objectives ranging from deal with certain enemies without taking any damage, and on top of all that stuff though, you have to able to go and deal with the forms of a lot of, you know, other things worth noting for, like finding the secret rooms and stuff like that. But apart from those side things though, I still love the actual copy ability combinations, or specifically the upgraded version of specific copy abilities, which I fully appreciate about that. And in addition to that though, is about the fact that I just seriously still think you should probably still recommend that game. Especially noticeable because, you know, this is one of the best selling Kirby games that's ever consisted of when it comes to Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So no matter what though, you can still able to recommend it. So yeah, that's as far as I can try to able to explain any of that. So, and it's also worth noting for is about the fact that, one thing I should probably able to want to classify for mentioning about this is that, recently, the Pokemon Company has issued the YouTuber manual strike over a 7-year-old video, which I'm not exactly sure what that video is supposed to be. Well, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I think it could be something more related to the forms of Call of Duty Zombies. So no matter what though, they somehow managed able to, well, one of those YouTubers in particular published a video featuring Pokemon modded into the Zombies mode on the popular Call of Duty franchise, and yeah, the YouTuber has warned other YouTubers if that they have uploaded footage of modded Pokemon content, then they should delete or unlisted it unless they wanted to face the wrath of the Pokemon Company, which as a result, yeah, I think that pretty much speaks up for it, I guess. So, yeah, again, there's nothing else I can really think about it, so either way though. Something I want to mention about this as well, I guess, is that, I've noticed something about this as well, about the fact that it looks like, as it turns out, that we're about to be able to be receiving the actual specific small story that's going to be out in June at some point until tomorrow on the 27th of March. And because of that though, we're about to be receiving on, let's just say on YouTube, which appears to be the Spider Within a Spider-Verse story. And as a result, that particular shorts YouTube video is going to be premiered until tomorrow on YouTube, so I'm curious to check it out. Especially noticeable, it's bad enough about the fact that we still have to wait even longer, especially no matter what though, we were expecting to able to originally try to have Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse during at some point in this Friday, but as it turns out, it's been delayed significantly, all thanks to the forms of that aftermath, or specifically with the actual process of that particular writer's strike, which as a result, yeah, I was a little bit bummed out about it, especially noticeable because that could be a huge potential around here, but it's just so unfortunate about the fact that we have to wait even longer until that film decides able to release during that time, because I still managed able to enjoy Into the Spider-Verse, including Across the Spider-Verse movies, because no matter what though, both of those films are really darn good. So, and it looks like all of those bells have been active, so no matter what though, it will just cause something is about to happen. So no matter what though, we were too late, because obviously Lorona did somehow beat us in time. So yeah, there's nothing we can do about it, apart from the fact that we can pretty much guarantee to know what is gonna happen in journey forms of, let's just say, the Sea of Tears itself, because no matter what though, it looks like, as far as I'm aware, that... Oh, why did they go show us the arc then? Well, I get this strong sense of feeling about the fact that it might look like it's going to fly, I guess? So, that could be the reason for that, I guess. So, anyway, also another thing I want to mention about this as well, about the fact that it's been 1 year ago since when the final episode that features the one and only, let's just say, when it comes to the forms of the 1 year anniversary to the final episode of the long-running animated series starring Ash Ketchum and Pikachu, which as a result, after 26 years, the final episode of the 26-year animated series was broadcast since in during forms event last year in March 24th in Japan. The first episode of the 26-year animated series was broadcast in during forms event the 1st of April in 1997 in Japan. So, yeah, time flies, especially noticeable after realizing about the fact that while looking back, during forms event last year since we've been able to see the final screen time with the forms of Ash Ketchum in addition with Pikachu on screen. I mean, it's pretty crazy while looking back on it though, after the events of, you know, like I said before, since a year ago. So, anyway, so it looks like Lorona, including Tad, has got away again, so we might need to try to figure something out of how on earth do we supposed to able to catch up with her, especially noticeable that she did somehow beat us to it when it comes to able to activating the 5th bell, which pretty much leads us to the next kingdom of any sorts, which no matter what though, again, if you already know about this, ever since the original PlayStation 2 version, it's gonna take place in journeying forms of the Kingdom of Sorrow. So, yeah, we got a long trek ahead, so no matter what though, we do need to able to take care of the forms of the next couple of levels, of course. So, yeah, exponentially speaking now, we're almost nearly at the end, where it comes to able to be going into with the forms of Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil. So, yeah, everything else checks out there. So, and I suppose the final thing I want to mention about is about the fact that, yes, apparently so, that it's been 5 years ago since Disney brought out 20th Century Fox. So, yeah, that seems pretty crazy about this as well. So, either way, looks like the water has now been disappeared almost. So, yeah, we got able to try to figure something out. So, with that being said, folks, is that we got ending stuff at this point right here. So, join me next time for more of Let's Play of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series. While we're still playing through Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil, is that we're going on to the next stage, which appears to be the empty Sea of Tears. So, yeah, I'll see you guys on Thursday. Later, fellas.